Hi, this is Misha. And it's been a little while since we've talked about this shotgun specifically. It's appeared in a couple of compilations, but I get a lot of questions about it. This is the Benelli M4, and this is the LE variant. And this is the civilian version of the military's M1014 or 1014. And they're actually extremely similar, and these guns are available. So I thought we would talk about it a bit, show it being fired.
Good.
And for comparison's sake, I brought out my M2 Tactical. Would have been better if I brought an M1, but the M2 will do. They're very similar. Okay, so the M4. This shotgun was designed specifically for the U.S. military. It fires 12 gauge, both 2 3/4, and namely for military use, 3-inch Magnum. It is a semi-automatic, which is very interesting. Ever since the U.S. military started to use shotguns with the old Winchester 1897 and through the Winchester Model 12 and through the Ithacas and the Remington 870s and the Mossberg 500s and 590A1s, they were always using pump action or slide action shotguns. Now these are mostly used for guard duty, prisoner escort, other specialists' needs. They were not frontline combat weapons as such. It's not to say some were not on the front line, of course they were, but that wasn't someone's primary gun. You're not sending out a platoon equipped with shotguns. Although into a house, you can definitely send a couple of guys in. Well, modern warfare changed after the fall of the communist bloc and the first Gulf War. In the 90s, the military was thinking more and more about going to a joint combat service, so all the branches would use it, shotgun, and they thought it might be good to have it in semi-auto. That's where this gun comes in. Benelli had been very successful with its M1 line. While the military did not use these, a lot of police did. And HK would be one of the early importers for Benelli back in the 80s and 90s. They would do the M1, which was the forerunner to this gun here. Essentially the M2 is just an updated M1 with a little better ergonomics. They would also do the M3, which we featured in a different video, which is a so-called convertible shotgun. Now the convertible would work as either a pump action or a semi-auto. The M1 and the M2 were semi-auto only. These guns are very light for two reasons. One, we have an alloy receiver, and we do not have a gas system of any type. Instead, this uses an inertia recoil system. This has a bolt head that rotates with 2 lugs, and it is very springy, and basically it's just an agitated system. The bolt is held closed because of the lugs when pressure is high, and as the pressure drops off, it allows the mechanism to recoil back and forth. Recoil operation has been in use for a very long time, going back to the earliest machine guns. It's simple, dependable, and in addition to letting the gun be a very lightweight, it let it have a very high rate of fire. The downside, this gun is very tuned because of the recoil system. The weight and size and dimensions are all very set so this bolt works properly. It stays locked long enough, it doesn't unlock too late or too early, so it cycles. Also, because of the lightweight, recoil is noticeable. I'm not going to say bad, but noticeable. Again, though, it is very light. So the military wasn't just going to adopt an M1. They had their own requirements, and that's really where the M4 grew up. They started with their agitated bolt, their recoil system, and they added dual gas pistons. These are chromed gas pistons. They're under the handguard here, hence the bulge. And so along with the same bolt system, we now have a little better operation. This means it can cycle reliably all kinds of different ammunition. Also, this gas system, which they call the Argos, is self-regulating and self-cleaning. And it allows the gun to not be so weight sensitive to the point you can add devices, night optics, sights, things like that. So it was really added to suit the military. And it was a first for Benelli. Again, they had been just working with the recoil system in prior guns, and now for the first time we're using a new gas piston system. But it was also very new for the U.S. military because of being their first standard issue, meant for standard use, semi-auto shotgun. Yes, we had older guns like the Savage 720 and a Remington Model 11, but these were very limited use type guns. They were not at all standard issue or purchased in large numbers. So Benelli designed this around 1998. It went into trials in 1999 and was selected as the Joint Combat Service Shotgun, as I said. HK and Benelli were still working together at this point, and Benelli would immediately go into production. During the trial phase, this was known as the XM1014, and of course after adoption it was just known as the M1014. That was the military version. They would really get these in the hands of a few Marines very quickly. It seems like by the end of 1999, some were in the hands. And as the 21st century rolled into existence, the U.S. Army would purchase a good number. The Marines would continue to purchase and use them. And the Marines seemed to be the biggest user and proponent of this gun. In theory, the other branches, Air Force, Navy, Coast Guard, also adopt and use this, but in much smaller numbers, frankly. It's hard to find a lot of service information. So what do we have here? Well, we have a very, very reliable shotgun. We're still using a alloy type receiver like the prior M1 and M2. We have an 18.5 inch chrome lined barrel. The military version and this version both have the 7+1 tube. The difference, the military uses a single piece tube, and most of the law enforcement use a two-piece tube. The benefit to having the two-piece tube is you can just unscrew the extension and put on a compact 14-inch SBS barrel, which law enforcement needs more than the military. So there's pros and cons to both tube styles. But the two-piece tube I kind of like because of that ability to go flexible. We have ghost ring sights. I'm going to point these at you. These are made by LPA in Italy. Have a front post protected, and we have a rear ring, fully adjustable. This version actually has the tritium nighttime use inserts. Others will just have white dot. And we have a pick rail on the top, bolted to the receiver for obviously some optics. You're not going to probably put a 8-power scope on a shotgun, but sighting devices, or probably more for military use, night devices. The cocking handle is a little different than on the M1, M2. Obviously it's just straighter, a little more durable, maybe a little less elegant. Some people think it's a little small, but I don't know if I would want it a whole lot bigger. It's not something you would need to use much anyway on a semi-auto. Now it can be used as a forward assist or to manually cycle the bolt if that's required for less lethal type rounds. We have the usual stuff you'd expect: the last round hold open, ability to top off the magazine, ability to load directly onto the elevator. You can, as people refer to it, ghost load these too. Pretty standard Benelli features. We have a very standard Benelli rubber coated, very nice ergonomic grip. And we have this stock that is unique, developed for the M4 or 1014. We have this tube, and much like on an AR-15, we can't fold it because the bolt will recoil into this for a buffer tube, a receiver extension. But even though we can't have a folding stock, we can at least have an adjustable, which is nice. We have this cheek riser. It is removable, replaceable. The stock body itself is alloy. Butt plate is nice, thick rubber. We have an ambidextrous standard sling slot here. We also have more of an HK type hole here. Just to let you know, this front swivel can use both too. We have holes on each side for the HK style hook, and of course a slot in the middle for more of a standard sling. And it can be easily positioned either on the bottom or right or left side. You just need to pull the barrel off and move it around and put it back, which is pretty neat. Now, initially this stock was either fully out or fully in for storage transport. The problem is, fully out, we have the long 14-inch length of pull. Now, I know a lot of Marines and a lot of servicemen are quite tall, much taller than myself, but not everyone. And even if they're tall, a lot of the times they're wearing body armor or thick clothing. So even for them, this is a longer length of pull. So what Benelli did in more recent times, they put in a second notch. I can line it up here in the middle. Oh, that's the takedown, sorry guys. There's the second one there. There's a little launch there. So having a third intermediate position. For me, for shorter people, this is pretty good. Maybe just a smidge short, but a lot better than being way long. And for someone wearing body armor, this is perfect. This has very easy disassembly. We just unscrew this cap here. The magazine spring is captive. It's not going to go flying out. The barrel pulls straight off. The handguard comes off, revealing the gas pistons. Normally you won't have to do excessive cleaning there. They're, like I said earlier, pretty well self-cleaning. Everything on here is either anodized if it's alloy, or parkerized if it's steel. And a lot of the internals are chrome plated for, again, easy cleaning. So this is a very easy disassemble. You don't need really any tools to get the bolt out, to get the barrel off, so on and so forth. And in fact, the cocking handle, which comes out very easily, you just rotate it and get it in the middle position and it pulls out. This actually works as part of the tool to clean, disassemble the Argo gas system. Put that in there, so it just pops in. There it is. So that's pretty neat. It's a very well thought out gun. These have been in service since they were adopted. By all accounts, while they haven't completely replaced pump action shotguns, there are still reasons for needing a pump. They do what they do very well. They're about as reliable as a semi-auto shotgun is going to get. And they seem to be quite well respected. It also seems like younger recruits enjoy the semi-auto self-loading type shotgun. They're not as inclined to like pump actions as us older people, apparently. Just what they grew up with. Semi-auto shotguns are much more common, and of course they appear in video games now. So it's not as much of a novelty as it would have been 20 or 30 years ago. So that's the military gun. Let's talk about the civilian as quick as we can here. This is almost exactly like an M1014. Now, as I said, this is the LE variant, part number 11715. This has the night sights. 11721 would be the exact same gun, but with the standard white dot sights. This is identical with the stock. The extended tube, as I said, it's a 2-piece instead of 1, but otherwise the same. We have the same pick rail, all that's the same kind of treatments. They're built as tough, same generally heavy-ish profile barrel. There is one difference with the barrel. The military gun will have a fixed, improved cylinder choke. The M4 guns have a removable choke here, so you can use various choke systems. It comes with an improved cylinder from the factory, but it does use standard Benelli chokes, so that's one minor difference, which I don't consider a bad thing. It definitely makes it a little more versatile for civilians and doesn't hurt anything. And that's really about it. Now, the standard M4 tactical civilian gun will have a fixed buttstock, but a collapsing one can easily be installed without modifications, at least to guns made post assault weapons ban, so post 2004. And of course, the standard M4 will have the exact same tube back here, but will have a front section that's crimped, so basically a dummy front section to not allow shells to feed further, making it a 4+1. This is done for import reasons to meet the 89 restrictions implied. However, once in the USA, it's perfectly legal to add features. Now, this gun, along with the 11721, come in, just as you see it here, for law enforcement use. So it's perfectly legal to import guns that are exempt from the 89 import restrictions and thus 922R, because they're imported for non-civilian use. However, if there is a surplus of these, let's say a police department orders 50 and Benelli sends 55 just to be on the safe side, you know, they might have hired a few new officers, or a couple of the guns may be defective, you never know. And if they say, well, we don't need the extra 5, then Benelli is free to sell them on the civilian market. They were imported legitimately for LE use. The LEs, there was an overstock. It is okay to sell these, and thus, as long as you don't go changing the configuration, 922R is still not applied. These are still exempt, which is very interesting and cool, if you ask me. But again, you only find these as there are surplus guns that are from Met contracts. So they are extremely identical, except they don't have M1014 on the side to what the U.S. Marines and other branches are using. These have the same durability, dependability, and reliability that any Benelli would, really. And so that's why I wanted to do this video, just to talk about the history a bit, talk about these police guns, and show a few shots being fired out of one. And if you're interested in Benellis, check out our other videos and other shotgun videos. Hopefully some of those might pique your interest there too. If you have any questions or comments, please post them below. If you like the video, click like. And if you'd like to help support us, please check out our Patreon page. This is Misha, and we'll catch you next time.